antes voy a hablar un poco sobre su biografía. Hans es doctor por la Universidad de Utrecht en Holanda, con un tema sobre la integración de la teledetección en el modelado dinámico espacial de la humedad del suelo, utilizando técnicas de asimilación de datos implementadas en el framework para Python, PC Raster. De 2007 a 2012 trabajó en el Instituto Flamenco de Investigaciones Tecnológicas, BITO, donde fue nombrado investigador en modelación ambiental dinámica espacial. Participó en proyectos relacionados con la modelización de la calidad del agua, modelización del cambio de uso del suelo y el uso de datos de teledetección para aplicaciones urbanas. Desde abril de 2012, nombrado profesor de modelización ecohidrológica en IHE Delft. Actualmente enseña modelos SIG de código abierto y está involucrado en proyectos de investigación y desarrollo de capacidades. Algunas de sus publicaciones son Evaluation of the Surface Energy Balance Systems, SEPS, Applied to Aster Imagery with Flux Measurements at the Spark 2004 site, Barrack, Spain, Hydrology and Earth System Sciences, and the scaling of thermal images over urban areas using the land surface temperature in various percentage relationships. International Journal of Applied Earth Observations and Informations, entre otras. Coautor del libro junto con Kurt Menke, Qgis for Hydrological Applications, Recipes for Catchment Hydrology and Water Management. Actualmente participa en el aula virtual GIS OpenCourseWare de IHE Delft, UNESCO, con cursos de software libre especial enfocados a estudios hídricos. Bienvenido, Hans. Puedes comenzar con tu presentación.
Gracias, Raúl. Thank you for the introduction. Buenas tardes, buenas noches aquí. But I will continue in English because my Spanish, I didn't practice it much after having some courses. Maybe something for the future. But I understood that Raúl gave a great introduction, so I'm not going to spend much on this slide. I don't know if he mentioned that I'm also a board member of the Dutch QGIS user group. And tomorrow there's a meeting of the user groups. You can find more information in the QGIS communications. So let me then introduce my institute a bit more in detail, because this background information is also important for the rest of the presentation. So as Raúl mentioned, I work for IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, which is a Category 2 institute of UNESCO. And we are the largest international graduate education institute in the field of water. So all the education we give is specialized in water, but goes to the full range, from engineering to governance and diplomacy, for example. And we have fully credited master's degrees and PhDs together with our partner universities. And we have educated since our start in 1957 more than 23,000 water professionals from over 190 countries. In that sense, we are not an average university in the Netherlands. We really focus on people from the developing world and target water problems everywhere in the world. And we also do research like any other university, and we have 103 PhD fellows from many places, and also Latin America is very well represented in our population of researchers and students. Our vision is to have a world free of poverty and injustice, in which people manage their water and environmental resources sustainably and equitably. And our mission is to do that through partnerships to strengthen the capacity in the water sector to achieve global sustainable development. And the ambition is that through this work of capacity development, we aim to make a tangible contribution to achieving all sustainable development goals, the SDGs, in which water is key. And of course, education is important, and spatial information is also important if we deal with water. So we offer education and training in different master programs. We also provide short courses, online course and tailor-made trainings. And this also applies, of course, to the GIS education. And here you see a nice picture from the pre-COVID world with our master students that graduated. But we also have the 2.0 version these days for the new normal, where we had a fantastic online graduation ceremony for our last batch of students that had to finish during the first wave of COVID. But we had a great show live on YouTube for them and their families with all kinds of nice mock-ups with elements from the Netherlands and from water. So that was great fun and innovative. Another innovative aspect this year because of COVID is with our new batch of students. And as I said, our students come from all over the world. And a colleague of mine asked if it would be possible to put them all on a map so they could do an activity when they are in an online class to find each other on the map, etc. Of course, I'm always in favor of making maps. So I said, yeah, that's possible. And then he said, he came with the next wish, can you make an app? And I was like, yeah, in 2 weeks, that's maybe a bit too much. But since we have good building blocks from open source communities, we can do something with it. So we used the input app from Lutra Consulting and QGIS, and we used Mergin, and we used QGIS to web. So the workflow was as followed. The students, I prepared the forms for the students on QGIS using the widgets. I synchronized it with Mergin, and then the students could register for input and download this mapping project. And these questions were just for fun about knowing each other. And after they did that together with a picture, because of privacy, I cannot show these things here. Then they synchronized their input with Mergin, and then I got it back in QGIS and I exported it to QGIS to web after some styling to get the drops on the map. There are filters on the site where they can look for which master program they are and who are from that program, but also search on name and addresses that are geotagged here. So that was a nice, cool experiment, and only possible in 2 weeks because of all these tools existing. And nice that we expose already our students in an early stage to GIS and GIS for water. Now, you're expecting, of course, me to explain already a lot about QGIS and GIS OpenCourseWare. But before I go into that, I need to give you some background about why we are doing OpenCourseWare and what are business models with free courses that we offer, and why is this useful and important, not only for the people who follow the courses, but also for us as knowledge institutes. And I hope it will inspire a lot of people to do similar things. We have to start with the principle that we don't want to leave anybody behind in our education. And I gave a presentation some time ago for the IMS conference, International Environmental Modeling and Software Society. And there I addressed the 4 open elements: open access, open data, open source, and open education. And linked it, of course, to the SDGs, which are very important in our work. And in our own strategy of IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, we state that we want to increase the accessibility of our knowledge and education to our target audience by reaching out to people who have difficulties in attending the classroom trainings. For several reasons, they are spread over the world and need to travel. They can't afford it, too busy with work or with family commitments, or there are other issues with not able to get a visa, there are security issues or health concern, especially now during COVID. This is very visible. So therefore, we have e-learning high on the agenda, and we made some big developments, of course, in the last months. And I'm personally responsible for the e-learning program with our partners. And we also have some facts that the number of people who apply to our courses, they exceed the number that we can admit by a factor of 4, which makes it that we leave out a lot of people that cannot join our courses. Doing it online or in blended mode, which means a combination of online and physical trainings or live streaming, like we do now, substantially increases this accessibility. It lowers the cost, but it also gives the learners, the participants, flexibility to study at their own pace and combine it with their study and their work, and also with their families. So that's a bit the idea, to make education more accessible And with digital means, we can change the way we teach and we change the way we learn. But how does it fit with our business model? Because we were all, like many of you in Knowledge Institutes, used to give classes face-to-face, where you have your participants in the classroom. And they pay for that class and you calculate your hours for that. So we had to reverse engineer the business model. And there's another presentation which you can find in the YouTube channel that I have in the webinar section. And this was presented during the Open Education Week 2020. And I take some highlights from this presentation for this session. If you want to design a new business model, it's better to step back, zoom out, and think about the elements that are important to reshape your business model around it. And I started by looking at what we do and where the money comes from. And that's from our tailor-made advice and trainings. That is where organizations, private sector also, governments come to us for a special request on trainings that we can offer with our experts or in a consortium with different experts. By definition, it means that this is what the market needs. They come to us and they want us to implement a training. That means that they also pay a market price for that and that we can develop new materials that are needed by the market. So that is for us a great opportunity to innovate instead of taking what we already have and teach that to our usual customers that are sitting in class. So point one is look at the tailor-made trainings and advice that we give and take the elements there and agree that you can develop new courses that you can also make available for others. Very strange slide this, an observation from the corporate sector that I want to include. In the Netherlands, we like a lot peanut butter. And if you go like 20 years ago, you would find just one or two brands. It's a very simple product, just peanuts and oil, maybe some sugar added. But nowadays, you see this whole whole world of peanut butters in the supermarket with different prices and quite big differences. And what can we learn from this? We can sell the same peanut butter with different labels for a different price, but that doesn't sound really a good thing to do with courses. But what we can do is look at how they add value. And I don't know how that's in Latin America, but in Netherlands at least, if you add caramel sea salt to a product, then you can increase the price a lot and people will buy it because they love every product, chocolate with caramel sea salt. But believe it or not, there is peanut butter, double crunchy with caramel and sea salt, and you can double the price. So if you add value with little things, you can ask a higher price. So you need to know the value chain of your products and services that you want to sell. And what can we learn from online services? Many services that we use in the cloud, on the web, are freemium business models. You can get a lot of basic features for free, like this example from Dropbox. But many people, they are willing to pay more to get more disk space and more features. And then there are different levels. And that's with many products that we have nowadays on the web. So also here we see the value chain. Adding more value, people are prepared to pay more. And then you can ask a higher price. And what can we learn from all of you, from open source, from the open source communities and their business models? For example, what I learned from QGIS is that the product is very valuable, but it does not have a direct monetary value. It doesn't have a price, it doesn't have a license cost, but it has a very high value. For all of us listening here, it is an important product. But we don't pay for the product. But everybody who is in this ecosystem of the software earns money with providing added value services around the product. And these added value services also improve the product. So if some client wants a feature developed for QGIS, then companies that work in this ecosystem around QGIS or individual programmers, they can make the feature and get a payment for that. And the feature can then be available for the rest of the world. And that's a good way of working where a lot of improvements become available, but there's still money coming into the system. And it's a win-win situation for all of us. And it means it improves the software, it increases the amount of users and all kinds of effects that come with it, including that it's a super nice community. So let's step back and look at our educational products then. And Delft, the city of my work, IHE Delft Institute for Water Education, is famous from the Delft blue tiles. So I thought, well, let's present the message on the tile, on the Delft blue tile. We don't sell course materials, we sell the experience. It's a very disappointing message for many of my colleagues, but sorry, your materials are not the value. It's you. That's the good news. It's you, the lecturer. So if you come to that conclusion, it means that you can also just put your course materials on the web, because people will pay for getting the experience with you. And what are all these experience and added value? We're going to talk a little bit about that. So in order to make your course materials more inclusive and more accessible, it means that you need to have different course products. Our most valuable product is the Masters. Now it's 18 months, it will go to a 1-year and a 2-year program, and it's very expensive. And many people who follow the Masters, they get scholarships for that. And that has a high price with a lot of added value. You don't only get GIS, but you get all the other topics and different programs. There's fieldwork, there are excursions, there's the lab, there are professionals from different countries teaching to you. So that's a great, expensive, but good product. On the other end of the spectrum, so we see here on the x-axis the price of the product, and on the y-axis the number of participants. It's a relative scale, so it's just for an idea. But you see here that the price is of course free, and many people use the OpenCourseWare or the open educational products. I'm going to define this a bit better in the slides that will come. Then the next step is that some people want to have a book next to their computer. It's easy to do the exercises, and they pay something for a book. So therefore we have the book QGIS for hydrological applications. But we also know from experience that many people get stuck with this. My estimate is around 70% of the users get stuck with the free materials and need guidance. I see it from emails already that come in. And therefore our next product is the online course. That's a paid course where you get support, or it's self-paced. We are not there yet, I'll say that in a bit. And they can get a certificate that proves that they finished the course successfully. There's also the short course. That's a face-to-face course for a short period that they learn GIS. We did it the last couple of years before Corona with Kurt Menke. Gave the course in Delft. It was always great, and we always did a mapathon in one of the evenings for the Red Cross, mapping in OpenStreetMap. It was a great fun. So that's also added value, meeting Kurt, and we both teaching to a group, so people pay more for that or get scholarships. And then here we have the tailor-made trainings again, where a customer pays for the features and we develop new materials. Now, one of the big points here is that you need to develop the new materials here and then reuse it in all these other products, and then it becomes more a circular economy. But this gap here is on purpose in my graph. We miss this part at this moment at IHE Delft. And I see colleagues also from the QGIS community who have a much lower price than us for courses. And I believe we can also do that. We can make our courses more accessible. But then the point is we need to make our systems more efficient, like automatic payments, automatic generation of the certificates, automatic registration of people, and now it's a lot of handwork, and therefore these products are so expensive. So we're going to work on that on the short term to make this really possible soon. The problem is not the courses, because I have a self-paced course that already allows students to go by themselves through it, and it's based on each chapter of the book and completely interactive with quizzes and videos, and it's quite fun to do the course, I would say. But this gap is bothering me, and we need to do something about it, because we lose a lot of people in between the book and our first online course product. So the challenges are with OpenCourseWare and free products is that this world is about that employers want to see certificates, so everybody wants now certificates. Today I had a tough discussion. Well, somebody in the hackathon, in the team that I'm guiding, a really good team, they went past this round, but they asked, can we get a certificate? And that is like putting a red cloth in front of a bull where I am the bull. And I hate this inflation of certificates. I find that you can deserve a certificate after finishing a course where you deliver an assignment and the certificate states some quality from an authority. But nowadays, even in the YouTube chat of webinars, we get questions from people, hey, do we get a certificate for this webinar? And that's complete inflation. Sorry for expressing my opinion here so much, but we should really get rid of that inflation of certificates. And people should have their own motivation to follow free products, which means to learn something. And the same with hackathons. I told them if I go to a Qgis Hackfest, I pay my own flight, I pay my own food unless it's sponsored, and I am there with my own time. I don't claim it on my institute or on a project. And I bring my own facilities for that. So another problem is that the cheaper products are too expensive where they get the certificates. There's a lack of scholarships for online courses. In the Netherlands, we have the NUFIC program, Orange Knowledge program, that gives scholarships for people to study with us. And nowadays, it's only still for face-to-face. We had with the last short course that it adapted to online. But I would like to see this in a green knowledge program, where donors will really understand that we can still do partly face-to-face, but we can make many more people happy with scholarships for e-learning. And it's green because they don't need to travel. It's more inclusive and it's green. So my plea is to, guys, come up, donors, accept it. The world has changed. We need now scholarships for e-learning. Otherwise, we don't move forward. And a compliment what I already said, the people who follow the free products, like the people who followed the webinar series that I did with Kurt Menke, the QGIS Hydro webinars in the first Corona wave. That was great to see so many motivated people who didn't get paid to follow a course, who didn't get certificates, who at the end at the GeoBears wanted to share their screens to show what they made based on what we were showing them in our webinars. For me as a lecturer, that's very motivating. So I hope to see more of that, but also give those people a chance to get jobs, even without those freaking certificates. Now, to translate educational products to a freemium price model, this is just an example with some indication values. Here on top of the table, you see the different course products. So OpenCourseWare, the completely free course, online course, the short course, which is face-to-face, and then tailor-made trainings, for example, and what you get. So in all cases, you get the course materials, because we said that doesn't have value in itself. But if you want to have a tutor, then you can't do the OpenCourseWare. So with our OpenCourseWare, that is just, you get it as it is, but strictly you are not allowed to ask questions and ask help. Of course, some people do, and you need to draw lines there as a lecturer, like how much do you accept and when does it become consultancy? And then, that's, so you can see that the official QGIS certificate, we of course don't give that for the OpenCourseWare, but for our paid courses, we do that. And we give a book to the people who follow the face-to-face trainings. We include that in the fees and the face-to-face contact and the credits for the course. And then here you see the prices. And this is what I mean with that the gap between free and our first course is too high, and we need to do something about that. And of course, for tailor-made trainings, all these choices are flexible, so the client can determine what works best. And we know that people want certificates, so it's great that IHE Delft is also part of the QGIS certification program. And I'm also together with Kurt Menke, reviewer of people who want to get certification for their institutes. And with the certification program, it's a great way for IHE Delft and for myself to contribute to QGIS, because each certificate is worth 20 euros contribution to QGIS. And my institute has delivered so far, I think, the most certificates of all the institutes. Last week, I delivered 139 certificates to our last batch who has passed, for the students who have passed the course. And that's a great way for everybody, students happy with the certificate, me happy as a lecturer, and the institute happy. And QGIS, of course, with all the money that it brings for further development. Another great example of a business model that is interesting. Well, I don't have to explain you what open means. We're now moving to the OpenCourseware part and what it really is. But it's the same for OpenCourseware, for open data and open source software. It's about the freedom to use, reuse, redistribute with some requirements to attribute or share alike. And examples in education are OpenCourseware, of course, but also MOOCs. Here's an example of a MOOC that we did for a European project, very well attended. It's webinars that's open, and any other type of open educational resource that I will talk about a bit. And we also like to give things for free. It's almost Christmas. It's like being Santa Claus. So our core business is to share knowledge. The best way to do it is without any trouble of administration. Just give things away and let people enjoy what you have and see it as a business card for people to go into your paid products. So open educational resources, maybe you're not so familiar with the term. OpenCourseWare was originally like a full course, normally an online form that is accessible for free without support. But we have also found out that open educational resources are a good thing because they are smaller pockets of knowledge that are spread in a digital form. It can be a video clip of a lecture, it can be a quiz, it can be any Google form, it can be a Jupyter notebook, anything that you want to share for educational purposes. And these things are called open educational resources. And why would you do that instead of giving away a full course? Well, it's much easier to deliver shorter things like videos on a YouTube channel. It increases your visibility of your organization, but also remember that our organizations are also there because of the experts, like you, most of you. So it's also increasing your visibility as an expert. And I'm happy that IHE Delft also sees that it's a win-win for both of us, that I can be an expert, passionate about something, and it increases the outreach of our institute, but also of me as an expert. Therefore, we can increase the impact and we can tap into a wide audience, especially if you have a YouTube channel. You can create a community around it, and also with these webinars we found out with the Qgis Hydro webinars. And we have access to a different audience that can normally not afford or find a way to scholarships, and that's a completely different audience. It's a nice opportunity also to reuse existing materials that you have from courses that you already developed. So it doesn't mean that for open educational resources you need to develop new things from scratch. You just use and cut things into smaller pieces that were already existing. You can immediately start with it. You don't need an infrastructure. You can use everything that's already there on the internet. There are a few more things. Can be any format. It's cheap, of course. It's free for the students to follow. And the last point is important. It's more and more a requirement that we see from governments or donors when we do projects to deliver things as OpenCourseware or open educational resources. Now, as all of you, you like maps like me, and there's a nice project. They contacted me through Twitter after the launch of the GIS OpenCourseWare platform, like if I want to be on this map with the platform. And of course, we love maps and we like OpenCourseware and open educational resources. So we are a dot on this map, which gives an impression of how many open educational resources are available. And as you see, also in Latin America. So that's great. So if you're not yet on the map and you have open educational resources, make sure you connect to this great initiative. And of course, if you click a dot, you get information about the courses and the institutes. So very briefly, if you want to start with open educational resources, you don't need a big infrastructure. You can just start a YouTube channel or Vimeo and have your stuff posted on other places like GitHub. Very useful also with GitHub pages. And we see that happening a lot. And that's already what we call open educational resources. But if you create a YouTube channel, you can generate more traction by linking it to social media, but also to create a community. And once you have a lot of subscribers, you can use the community tab to reach out to them. So you can announce events. Like this event, I announced it, and then more than 8,000 subscribers will receive an update about that. So that is quite good to get in touch with your audience. And all these clips, or many of these clips, are used in my courses and embedded in the e-learning environment that we use. And it's also a way to feature channels of other people that I find have interesting content on their YouTube videos. But I found something was missing, and there was a place where also people who have courses can host them in a professional e-learning environment. And we are lucky I am lucky that IHE has Moodle as an e-learning environment, which is a completely open source product, also developed by a very nice community that I'm also in touch with through our projects. And yeah, after some discussion with our e-learning people and managers at IHE, they all were very enthusiastic about it. Okay, let's create a separate instance of Moodle for GIS OpenCourseWare. I already had the domain name, and I agreed that I would give it to IHE Delft, and in return, I can use this platform to develop further all the GIS-related content, not strictly limited to water. So now it has a lot of content about water, GIS and water, but that's basically because I produced a lot of these courses also in our projects. But the idea is that it will host more other things, but only open source GIS courses. So we don't do commercial proprietary software here. So after the launch, it was interesting to see that we got people engaged who could do the translations. So there are different ways to contribute. I will tell that in the next slide. But we have at this moment 10 courses in English available, a broad range, which contains also a lot of separate tutorials. So 10 looks maybe not like a big number, but in those 10 courses, you find a lot of tutorials. We have already 4 courses in French. And we have now, since last week, our first course in Spanish. And that is thanks to Veronica Tutulua, because she liked the idea and contacted me and wanted to start with translating this course, Capacitación Sistemas Información Geográfica Orientado a Aplicaciones Hidrogeológicas. And this course was developed with IGREC, the UN Institute for Groundwater, in a project with the SADC region. And yeah, we have this one now available in English, in French, and in Spanish. So really great. And also great to know for you maybe is that Jin is translating courses to Japanese. And we have a lot of interest also from the Portuguese community. And that will also soon happen. We have this course that is based on the book QGIS for Hydrological Application, English. Because of our business models, it's a paid course, but I agreed with Kurt that all the translations will be freely available on GIS OpenCourseWare. So the interactive course will not be for free in English, but in all the other languages, if you help us translate, we can make it available for free. So how do you contribute to GIS OpenCourseWare? So I want to really build a community of people who really want to disseminate their knowledge and their courses on GIS. So you can help with translating what's already there, but you can also contribute with your own courses. Then I give you access to the platform and you can implement it. And we do quality control based on peer review. And we can co-organize paid courses. That is like a bit of a carrot for all of us. Like if clients think, okay, we want a little bit of that course and we want a little bit of that, a tailor-made training or advice, then together with the people who developed on the platform and me or others in our institute, we can host such a course. We can mediate, we can provide the infrastructure and everything. And it's a good form of outreach because we will mention the translators and the lecturers in their courses. You will be a lecturer in the platform with a profile. You will retain your intellectual property. I find that very important. And all the courses are licensed CC by NC, which means that that we put a restriction that they cannot be used by others in a commercial way. And that is because then it fits better our business model, and also for people who want to contribute, that we retain all rights to also do commercial trainings, but not anybody who just goes to the platform and teaches it as a consultant to others. That's also because we want to be also the authority on the quality. And it's always a risk if other people are going to teach with your materials. Therefore, we put that restriction. There are some challenges that I want to briefly mention. So if you have that business model, that you have this value chain, and you start with developing courses because some donors pay to you, or some clients, or some governments, or international organizations, you need to be very careful with the contract. Like this clause that is in one of our people who fund courses restricts us to retain our intellectual property. It basically says that everything you make with our money becomes ours. And this you should not accept, or you should at least be very conscious about it, that if you sign such an agreement, that first of all, you lose your intellectual property, maybe your logo will not even be on your course, maybe not even your name, and you cannot sell it to other clients, which is a bad thing, I think, and very outdated kind of policy. So just to summarize some of these challenges, you need to be aware of viable business models. I just present one example, but you need to tailor it to your conditions. But also you need to have staff and the management of your organization ready for this. And that is quite a challenge, because people are just used to do what they do. And you saw in these COVID times that many things had to move. But we don't always have the situation that things have to move. So it needs some flexibility of the organization to adapt to newer things, which might save the institute in the future, because there are more sustainable ways to do things than the way we normally do things. You need to sometimes also get time to do investments ahead of the market. So if you think that there's a new feature in QGIS for water, like for example, new technology that comes in QGIS, then it's better that you are the first one that already develops the course, and then you sell it to a client, than that you wait for the client to ask you to make it and then maybe lose your intellectual property. So you can also create a market for new products. And you need to spend some time on monitoring and evaluation, and set up a framework for that to verify if you reach your desired impact and if your business model works. That's a whole separate presentation that I can give you about that, but I left it out for here. And then to just repeat my big wish, we need a green knowledge program where there are scholarships for e-learning, so we can go a step further from the OpenCourseWare to have, for a low price, people following the same courses but get the official certificate and get some support. Now, maybe you were waiting a long time to see some stuff that we have in the OpenCourseWare platform. So at the end of the presentation, I just have some examples. Well, this is just the default QGIS that you are used to. That's just to show you, like, you can do already a lot of hydrological things with QGIS that you normally use. But you will find in the OpenCourseWare some advanced tutorials on how to automate procedures. For example, the catchment delineation with the graphical modeler. And in this way, you can very quickly delineate catchments in an automated way. And here you see an animation of our fieldwork area in southern France, where students go every year, except this year of COVID. And we use a lot of geodata to explore the area. Another nice example of a tool is this one to delineate multiple catchments in QGIS. A question we often get, because apparently in the other software you can do that. So together with Lutra Consulting in A Coruña, we developed this plugin. It's on a GitHub repository, not in the official repository, but easy to install. And then you just need to define your outlets, and then it will save all the catchments in a geo package. Very useful tool if you have multiple catchments. So the tutorial describes how it works. Another nice tool developed in A Coruña with Lutra Consulting is how to visualize the flow direction in a better way by using arrows. I learned this from software that's called PC Raster, but I found in ArcGIS and QGIS that this was not there. But then I got inspired by a workshop from Kurt Menke, where he let us make an animation of an hurricane using the mesh functionality of the Crayfish plugin. And then I thought, hey, that already exists. So what if somebody can help me with translating the Saga flow direction rasters to a mesh format, and then we can use this layer styling for the mesh and then visualize it in arrows. And simply we made that in A Coruña, and it's available and really cool. Much more intuitive way to visualize flow direction. So teamwork. Another nice tutorial that you can find is the stage volume tool. How to make the tool, but also how to download it and use it. Stage volume is for example, you have a lake and you want to know at which water level of the lake, which you can easily measure, how much is the volume below the water. So you have the volume of the filled lake. And here you see how you do that with the tool. And it creates this table with the stage and the corresponding volume. And then we can use this data plotly plugin to create the scatter plot. And here you see it. Well, you can do a lot of things for hydrology with existing tools like the profile tools. All these tutorials are available. So here you can see the jumps in the transect that are related to reservoir lakes and dams. You can calculate the different indices with QGIS. So this is the topographic water index. And I'm working on some new developments by getting the PC raster tools into QGIS. And here you see an example for flow direction, for routing some pollution. I just use a random map here for a demonstration and route it over the flow direction and accumulate it. And when I run it, it will give me then all that material accumulated in the area. And it's of course a bit logarithmic, so you need to change the styling a bit. And then you can see how the pollution accumulates with the AccuFlux function. Here on the right side, you see all these functions that are available. And it runs on Conda. So if you install QGIS on Conda and in a same environment as PC raster, and you follow the explanations on my GitHub, then you can use all these functions. And there's much more to come. It's still under development. New courses that I am developing soon with Lutra Consulting is the use of mesh layers, very important for hydraulic modeling. We're still figuring out some budget for this, so if you have ideas or want to finance that, then we're happy. It's not expensive. We just need a couple of days to make this and have a nice course about this. And then, if you want more inspiration, I can just check out the 30-day map challenge that is going on this month and see all kinds of posts about maps for hydrology that were made with QGIS. So I'm coming to the end of my presentation. I want to make here a shameless plug, as we call it, for the book QGIS for Hydrological Applications. I know it's not free and it's not OpenCourseWare, but it's still an important product. And some good news for you is that because of Thanksgiving, the publisher has a sale until this Monday. It's 30% off all ebooks. So this is your chance to get QGIS for Hydrological Applications as an ebook. And you have to use this coupon code, THANKS, when you order it through the website of the publisher, locatpress.com/HYD, that directs you directly to the book. What is very important if you purchase the book is that my share of the income of the book goes to a fund to support IHE Delft students to join QGIS and Phos4G events. And maybe the next Phos4G, which will be in Latin America, can be joined by my students who can otherwise not participate in these events. And maybe present some of their research that they did in QGIS based on what they learned in my classes. So I hope you find that a good reason to get the book and to support my students from the Global South to create more diversity in the open source communities around QGIS and Phos4G. So this is my last slide. Feel free to join and figure out what's there on the GIS OpenCourseWare platform. Just go to gisopencourseware.org. and enjoy those tutorials. But also I invite you to contribute. If you have nice tutorials developed and you want to put it on a real e-learning platform, feel free to contact me if you want to translate things that are there and not already translated. Let me know, and I'm looking forward to let this platform grow and get more people inspired to dare to share. Thank you for this opportunity to present. And I'm happy to answer your questions. Hay preguntas.
Thank you very much, Hans. Very interesting presentation. You brought up very interesting points for anybody into teaching. So let's see if you have any question. Okay, Saber Ramsey, this is a very nice presentation, Hans.
Thank you. Gracias.
Okay, so it seems we don't have any questions.
Okay, if there are no questions, I can spend some more time, or you have as a moderator maybe some questions, but otherwise I can explain a few more things.
Okay, so I asked you before about PC Raster. I don't know if you want to talk a little more about that and introduce.
I think that's a good idea, the new development. So let's go back to that slide. So here. So many people don't know PC Raster. I grew up with it in Utrecht University. It was developed there. It was the team of Professor Burrow who wrote the first GIS book, I think, for education. And that group developed a GIS, which is basically meant to do map algebra, but also to do dynamic modeling. So with PC Raster, you can build your own spatial dynamic models for environment and for hydrology. That's not exactly the purpose for which I integrated with QGIS, because that's more for static GIS. Although we can think of, after this is integrated, to do also dynamic GIS. And when I was doing my PhD, the PC Raster developers, they converted the whole PC Raster language to Python. So it's a library that you can import in Python and do map algebra. And it's the PC Raster map format is a GDAL format. So you can easily import and export it to other formats. But there was some problem with dependencies and how do you install the PC Raster library and everything into a QGIS. That seemed to be impossible at some point. But fortunately, there is the development in Conda, and I'm very happy with that. So I just connected the dots and I thought, okay, if you can have QGIS in Conda and you can have PC Raster in Conda, and Conda takes care of the dependencies, then for me it would be quite easy to integrate the two. Just as a starting point, maybe later it can be integrated in another way also for people who don't use it in Conda. So I started to step by step make these processing tools, and with the QGIS functionality, you can easily wrap the interfaces around the little Python scripts. There are still some problems with it, not for the user yet, but I'm looking for somebody from the QGIS community who can help me with the raster part in the processing tools, because some things I don't understand, which are needed if we want to bring this to another level. So you can also contact me if you're interested to work with me on that. And we are thinking of running a crowdfunding with the developers of PC Raster to bring this to another level. So you can use all these tools like you use Saga and Grass tools, and even integrate it in your graphical models. So lots of ideas, but also when the PC Raster library is available through Conda, you can also make plugins that run models using PC Raster and QGIS functionality and with the interface.
That's really nice. Okay.
And also the reason why we do this is because we feel, as I'm like a raster power user, that QGIS is very, very strong on vector, but still a bit weak on raster functionality, especially if it's about more advanced raster analysis. And I see that new things come in every time, so that's good. But I think if we have this whole library in QGIS, that we can really boost the functionality.
Okay, so everybody now go try PC Raster. Yes, I think you're right. It's a very good contribution to the QGIS environment. It's gonna cover some of the holes that we have in the raster part. Anything else you want to comment?
Just to say that I'm very happy that we have students from all over the world who get now exposed to QGIS as an alternative, because as we also discussed before this session, it's not always very common to use QGIS in many places in the world. And I even lost projects because the donors maybe agreed to do QGIS, but when they, in the last step, consult the local people, they say, okay, the course is perfect, but we want the other software. So I think this principle of educating people from the bottom to expose them to other ways of dealing with software can be very inspiring also for myself to do that with those people. And they are the next generation who can change that it's more balanced and people have a choice what to use. And as we also discussed before this session, in the water sector, it is very conservative and many people use the licensed tools and cracked versions. And I think education is the key to give people a choice. And we have the principle that we teach GIS and not software. So we use particular software, but still if they learn GIS with my courses, they should still be able to do it in any other desktop GIS tool.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Learning what the tool does, not just using the tool. Okay, so I don't think we have any questions here. So I just want to thank you, your participation in the event. It was very, very interesting, and I think we can learn a lot from your presentation on all the people who are into teaching GIS. So check it out because you touched very good points. So again, thank you very much from all the QGIS LATAM community. See you next time.
Thank you too, and thank you for this opportunity. And I wish you all good luck with your event and learn and share a lot of knowledge with each other. Thank you. Gracias.
Thanks, Hans.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very thankful.